Good evening and welcome to the Bitter Knitters podcast. It is Wednesday, May
Uh-huh.
29th, 2019. My name is Jacqueline and Ryan is here. Arthur's trimming his beard. Who knows what these guys do? I
Scaring
don't.
off a bunch of kids outside.
Oh yeah, chasing kids away from his backyard fence with like a
He
stick.
reminds me of the Clint Eastwood movie.
Yeah.
What was that called? The one with the Asian.
El Dorado or something like that. El
Is it El
Segundo.
Dorado? Something
El,
like that. Yeah.
El
That's
Camino.
him. No, it's not Camino. That's an actual town. El Dorado is a town too, isn't it? I don't know. Whatever. That movie with Clint Eastwood, the grumpy old
Get
man.
off my lawn, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
I did actually once.
Yeah.
I used to like him.
Yeah, I've seen movies from him on and off, and some of them are good, and some of them are like, eh.
He doesn't deserve an Oscar.
Okay, so it's May. We haven't talked for a while, but I just need to say this because I'm very upset. It's not even June, and June bugs are already out. And my husband had to cut the screen on our window because our window wouldn't shut. So he had to cut the screen. And can I tell you, like 2 nights in a row, a June bug literally touched me in my own house.
Okay, what is a June bug?
Okay, it's like a big, I don't even know what color to describe it. It's like actually a beautiful color. It's kind of like a pinkish copper color. And they're like beetles. And they open, like those beetles that have hard shells and they move them over so their gross wings can come out and they fly. Yeah, and they like to fly at your hair and get stuck in your hair a lot.
No.
And they're big. They're like the size of a quarter and like tall.
It's been really weird in New York. I cannot speak for the rest of the country. New Yorkers live in a bubble. I am sorry. Don't really care about your feelings. Typical New Yorker. It's been quite weird here. We have not had extremely warm weather. We've actually had quite chilly weather.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking the middle of May. I'm not talking April, you get the spring showers. I'm not talking March, where it's still kind of like, I don't know if I'm going to wear my Canada Goose or if I should wear my blah, blah, blah. I'm talking in May, a little bit after my birthday, my 21st birthday. I've discounted this quite a few times already this year. It was 44 degrees outside.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know what that is in Celsius, but that was 44
degrees. My kids have been making me turn the heat on, and I'm so cheap. I hate to turn the heat on in May. I like put on some sweaters, and they're like, "We're sleeping with 2 blankets, Mom."
Yeah, it's been quite for anybody, Republican or Democrat, liberal or conservative. If you don't recognize the fact that there is a global issue when it comes to the weather in general, the environment, I think you need to recheck your beliefs on that. Don't call it global warming if you don't want to. Call it whatever you want. Global freezing, global warming.
Instead of global warming.
Climate change is a real thing. This isn't normal. One of my uncles, which you know all about, Jacqueline, who's a staunch Republican, staunch conservative, absolutely believes in climate change. He says this isn't normal. This is not the kind of weather that should be happening.
I guess really since I've been starting to talk to you. So we're looking at almost 10 years we've been friends, that spring is disappearing. We stay to the point where it's like, kind of like early March weather. So that cold, damp, rainy. And then suddenly, the end of May or the beginning of June, and it's heat waves. And that's what's coming. I mean, we're at the end of May, and in Toronto here, we had probably 3 really actually nice, warm days. We've had days that were sunny, didn't rain, but in my opinion, they weren't like, if I can go out without a jacket, that's a nice day to me.
Oh my God.
I mean, you needed a little sweater or something, except for about 3 days. Yeah. I mean,
that was just about today. I walked out. I was in a polo thinking that it was warm enough because I checked the weather before I left, and it was quite chilly. And in my head, I'm thinking, this is the end of May. This is going towards June. Solstice is coming up, I think, in a couple of weeks, right? Summer solstice.
Yeah. June 21st. Yeah.
And it is intensely gross to have this conversation, the concerns that I think normal people are having, because I'm a normal person, just like you're a normal person, are having about the weather. This isn't normal. I just think society has kind of ignored this, and we've politicized climate change. I'm not going to talk about the Green Deal. I'm not really interested in the Green Deal. Don't really care much about it. I am interested in us trying to come up with a solution to the weather and how we can potentially clean up the only, again, as a reminder, only planet that we have to live in, at least as of right now, habitable by human beings and animals alike.
There's no spas on the moon or Mars yet, people.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
And also, just as a reminder, we have more endangered animals in the past, I want to say, from what I was reading, 100 years? Now than what we did 100 years ago. And 100 years.
Even probably in the last decade, I would think, because of just what we're doing in the Amazon and what we're doing in Indonesia.
Polar bears.
Like with all these polar bears. Oh my God. But you know what I mean? Like we're taking down forests in
Brazil.
God, what's the place? Borneo. The only place where orangutans are. We're removing jungles so that we can put up palm tree or palm oil farms, whatever those are, palm oil farms. And that's destroying a lot of habitats.
When you break part of the chain in the circle of life, when you break part of the chain, one would like to think we're able to weld together those two links, right? But it isn't always like that. Part of the food group disappears, and it's not us necessarily that's going to suffer because we are somewhat at the top of the food chain, but then that lower part makes an affect or an effect to us in the big scheme of things, because people like to focus, and this will segue us into the conversation I won't talk about. People like to focus on just the small things, and you're not looking at the bigger picture.
And that's kind of the type of people I think how humans are, because this is the thing, right? We're also very we're so self-absorbed, and we don't mean to be always. We're not trying to purposely be all me. But I mean, think about it. Our worlds revolve around our own little lives, right? So my world is my husband, my kids, and my family. And then you extend out to the people, your acquaintances, your farther relations, right? And it's not that you don't want anything bad to happen. I don't want anything bad to happen.
You're basically saying don't get married and have kids.
No, but what I'm saying is like that's what you're concerned about, right? You're concerned about what's going on around you. So, and you think about, I mean, look, I think about climate change. I think about war. I think about starvation. I think about all these horrible things. But it's kind of like, what can I do? I try to recycle. What more can I do? Do you know what I mean? And so it does seem like such a huge thing. And when you don't have governments, not just yours, my government included, you don't have governments working to change it and saying that it's not a big deal. It's easy to just dismiss that and think it's not real or it's not going to affect you.
Which then, if you'll allow me to segue, which segues me into the Mueller reports. We are dismissive, right? We're going back, God knows, a month. I don't know when the last time we were on air. I don't even know the last time I was on the air with you guys, which says a lot. Because I'm always absent.
About a month and a bit. Yeah, we've been busy.
Which really kind of talks about, for me, the Mueller report and the core of it all. Mueller,
and the big statement he made today as well.
Which was the president, I'm summarizing here, the president is not exonerated from any wrong.
So all these times we see 45 saying no collusion, no obstruction, I'm innocent, I've been cleared.
And Barr, the Attorney General of the United States, which is Senate confirmed, had stated and had led us to believe that he was free of all charges. That is not the case.
No.
That was never said. Robert Mueller actually went unprecedented and sent a memo or a letter to Barr stating that is not what my report states.
Exactly.
Right. So this is
we've had Mueller not speaking the entire time. What is it? 18 months, 2 years, not speaking the entire time, not making comments about what he was working on. And even when he released it, he didn't make a statement. He sent it to the Attorney General. He sent out some kind of a summary. He said, here's my summary if you want to release this. Barr took it upon himself to write a whole new summary that was clearly not factual.
Completely not factual.
The world has not seen the Mueller report, right? We haven't seen that. We'll they're trying to keep it from being released.
It's redacted. And if you do get to review it, the public does, right? The public, I'm speaking for
heavily
the public.
Redacted in a lot of places.
It's heavily redacted. There's a lot of names, there's a lot of corporations, there's a lot of things we will not see on there. you will not have that. And so courts right now are heavily fighting to get unredacted reports
At
that
least
they
they have
may or may not
Congress
release.
to see the unredacted, as far as I'm concerned. Do you know what I mean? Like your
Well,
government in
because
charge of laws and justice should be able to see that without redaction.
Well, because I think the public is forgetting that the investigations were not just about collusion,
Yeah.
which collusion is not a federal crime, by the way.
Right.
It wasn't about collusion per se. It was a lot of things. It actually encompassed almost everything for 45, which was his business dealings, his finances.
Yeah.
As we saw, many people, if not most of the people that were questioned, were indicted and charged with some sort of
Yeah.
crime, right?
Yeah.
Whether they got 2
The
weeks in
most
jail
people
or
ever charged within the president's campaign and sphere of
Manafort.
employees. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, we're talking about Tricky Dick and how many people were, you know, fired and arrested and stuff with him. And then you look at it compared to 45, and it's like almost every single person he works with has been touched with scandal.
Well, none of them are coming off scathe-free.
No.
Right? Or unscathed, rather. Scathe-free is not a word. But no one's coming off unscathed. And I think now that a lot of them are resigning, it's not that they're being forced to resign. I think they're questioning their moral compass at this point, except for Mitch McConnell, of course. They're questioning their moral compass. Well, listen,
I don't think Mitch McConnell has a moral compass. I think he'll do whatever it takes to get his greasy agenda through.
I won't speak on that, although I agree with you personally. I think that when you get a freebie and you have a president that's willing to confirm every single conservative judge that you can get on the courts, or in the courts, you're going to do it, right? I mean, if Democrats, well, granted, Democrats had this free hand back in 2008, 2009, going into 2010 when President Obama was what do you call that, put into office, or became the president. He did not do this.
No,
he did not do this. And so for me, my question is that are we so on board with Trump because we can potentially get certain laws passed or turned over?
That's 100% part of it. They know
that that's a personal agenda, right? Like that's a personal agenda of Mitch McConnell's.
Yeah.
Because I think the conservatives fully are aware that they are turning into the party of days gone past.
Oh my God.
That most of their belief is
what that party is. I don't even think most real conservatives, and I'm talking about people that, you know, whatever, you want to have fiscal responsibility and you want to have, you know, how can anybody wake up in the morning and be proud of that president, be proud of that party? I just don't get it. You know what I mean? I just don't get it. And you know what? I mean, look, you're talking about you know, I've been an atheist since I was about 16 years old. And lately I've been wishing that there's a God and a devil so that people like Mitch McConnell can really face, you know, eternal hellfire, because somebody like him.
Well, but to all of a sudden potentially introduce laws that will allow insurance companies to not give care to women who've had abortions and transgenders, I think is disgusting. That is discrimination. That is unconstitutional. 100%. Yeah. It is what the Constitution does not want to happen. But apparently these constitutionalists,
you know, and I hate to say it, but there is a war. There is a war on, and I don't want to just say like liberal beliefs, but there is a war right now against, like you said, transgender. There's a war against, you know, gays and LGBTs. There's a war against women. There's a war against people of color. And I don't want to say racism. I don't want to say sexism. I don't want to say homophobia at every turn. Not every comment, not everything. But it is these things. I'm seeing it, people. And if you're not seeing it, you really have your head in the sand.
But the scary part is we're talking about the United States of America as of today. We're not talking also about the other countries who are following suit because of the 45 presidency taking place. I mean, I know that Duterte, the president of the Philippines, was before 45, but this isn't effective that. You know, Duterte is not going to make a big global impact as much as 45 is. 45 is watched.
Look, exactly.
He is a global figure.
You can have a country like Brunei, and it could be the most horrible dictatorship in the world. But like you said, it ultimately doesn't have a showing on the world stage where people are watching it as
Yes.
closely as maybe they should. But it's not going to.
Because
It's
we
never
almost
going
expect that from a country like Brunei. We
Yeah.
almost
But
expect
now we're talking about, quote unquote, the greatest country in the world.
in the world. The land of the free.
Land of the free,
Mhm.
liberty for all, justice for all these things that you would say in the Pledge of Allegiance. But it's not true.
It's a farce, right? It's
a farce.
it's a selling point that sometimes I think we're trying to sell. And the Mueller report for me, I wasn't trying to find, although you and I have said this even before the Mueller reports were to be out. So I just want to put on the record, because Meghan McCain likes to do this, that Jacqueline and I have been talking about this in our personal conversations before we restarted our podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
We've been saying heavily, he will never be found of anything.
Nope.
Right? We said this heavily. Or at least
not
he
for
wouldn't
any
be
kind
convicted.
of crime like that. We may find out at some point, something may happen after he's finished being president, where they'll find some sort of dirty money. That's my only real hope. But he's not going to be charged as a president.
It's very hard to convict a president.
Indicted as a president. That's never going to happen, people. Our only hope is that in the next election, he's ousted.
Yes.
You know?
Or even if he's not ousted, and let's say he stays as president, the Senate is flipped.
Yes.
So we can start hearings, not about impeachment, because I don't care much about impeachment. It's that we can start hearings about, bringing the truth out, because there's so many questionable things. I'm not so focused about Don Jr. I'm not so focused about Ivanka. I'm not so focused about Kushner, as much as I am focused on getting to the truth behind the dealings in Russia. And why that meeting that happened in Trump Tower occurred and what was spoken about. Because I want to know what was talked about in that meeting. Because I think that is a national security concern.
I am, because I know that those kids are making money illegally, just the way their dad taught them.
That's a given.
Just the way their dad taught them. And I would love to see the whole family taken down and their money taken away from them. Fuck them. The only person at this point in time in my mind that's innocent is Barron, and that's because he's not in the business world yet. But his daddy and his brothers and sisters will teach him how to be.
Well, I'll kind of also excuse Melania on this, because I think she's too far concerned about her young son to be physically.
I mean, she might not be involved in the business, but I mean, I think she knows what's up. You know, mobsters' wives know what's up.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
You know,
I mean, how can you be married to someone and not know?
But I do, as I flip-flop on her, because I think of how she showed up at the, at the
I really don't care.
I really don't care. But then I think of her face on Inauguration Day when she was laughing and smiling, and turned around and her smile dropped. And I think, what a horrible situation to be in.
Everybody, but here's the thing about that, and I'm actually on the other extreme of this. We all know I've been divorced. We all have gone through something in our marriages that it's just unspeakable. We've all been hurt by our partners. We've all been disappointed. Blah, 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 blah. If you think you're going to be exonerated of that, you are completely living in a lie. You are never going to be exonerated from what normal people go through just because you have a lot of money. If anything, you're going to be put on a microscopic lens and looked at, because this is what it entails.
When he finishes being president, she'll leave him so quickly. And I kind of hope she does, for her own sanity, I think. Because
to be dragged into the pit of the cheating scandal.
And you can imagine the things he said to her, because I'm sure she wanted to leave him beforehand, from what everybody gossiped about. But think about it. Her parents were still trying to get immigration into the country.
Which they just became citizens, if I'm not mistaken, a little bit before he became president.
Chain migration. I believe it was just after he became president.
Oh, wow. I thought it was before. Okay.
They had a young son. I'm sure he's like, you'll have nothing. I'll take this kid away, blah, blah, blah. So, and he probably has a deal. Stay with me another 4 to 8 years and, you'll get X amount of dollars at the end.
But I also think, though, on an even bigger scale, not just necessarily about the relationship, I also think this is a man who was not just unprepared to be president. This was a man who was unprepared for the onslaught that was to come by being the president of the United States of America. Everything about you will be questioned. When you are out of office, and you are finally just a civilian, like George W. Bush is now, like Barack Obama is now, like Bill Clinton is, like Hillary Clinton is, that is when all of the shit hits the fan. This
Yeah.
is the story. People don't realize that there is a before, there is a during, and that there is an after, right? Because we tend to focus when you and I are talking, even in our personal lives, we
Yeah.
tend to always say, what? Before and
Yeah.
after, right?
Yeah.
It's before and after, but no one ever talks about the during. This is the during, but there's always fallout after the
So look, the
fact.
dirt always comes out. Here's the thing. We might know, I mean, we seem to know a lot of the dirt at this point,
Mhm.
but the dirt always comes out. No presidency has ever gone without the dirt coming out, except for, I guess,
Yes.
Obama, because there wasn't really much dirt to come out.
Like what?
Do you know what I mean?
That Michelle had filed for divorce a little bit before. Like, I mean, that was kind of the only thing,
Yeah.
right? Because they never really spoke about that. But every marriage goes
Yeah.
through something. There's a difference between talking about someone's business career and their personal
Yeah.
career, and there's a
I mean,
difference
like, we talk about
between
scandals. Look, Obama was not a golden, shiny nugget of, gold.
you did
We know he
cocaine, yeah.
Well, not just that. I mean, like, look, he did more drone strikes. He killed more Iraqi citizens than
He
anybody.
actually deported more people before President
Deported more
the
people.
45. Yeah. Mhm.
I talked about when I watched that movie, the Michael Moore movie, and the
Mhm.
Michigan.
Mhm.
I never saw that when that happened, and I was so disappointed in Obama. Like, 10 years after the fact, broke my heart that that happened. You know,
But that's the thing. We never spoke about personal,
yeah,
right?
no, no, but we
You.
haven't. Where's all the Obama cheating scandals? That never
That's
happened.
what I'm
Where's all
saying.
the Obama,
You and I
giving
never
all his
sat.
his brothers and sisters jobs and all kinds of,
But that's what I'm saying is that you and I never sat there and
yeah.
personally discussed his life because we weren't
No,
interested really in about his life.
no. And there
Here
was
with
nothing to talk about.
but
Like,
with Don,
let's face it, they're a pretty boring couple beyond the fact that he was president and she was a
yeah.
lawyer. Do you know what I
But
mean? Like,
but with 45, the problem is this was a president that had the moral code and the moral compass of a goddamn fucking what's the name? Lion King, the brother,
Scar.
Scar.
Yeah.
This is Scar. I mean, really, this is Scar. I would do anything to be in power,
I don't even
aka
want to
kill my
compare him
brother.
to an animal because animals are just, they're not driven by any morals. They just do what they do. And I mean, he should know right from wrong. He claims to
Most of us,
church
Jacqueline,
man.
should know about right and wrong.
And I just don't feel like he gives a shit about right
Well,
or wrong.
but why give a crap? Right? Like that's kind of the mentality that a lot of people have now. And this again segues us into the conversation about the new laws being passed in regards to abortion.
Yeah.
Why give a crap? Why give a crap that someone else's decision is not yours to make?
Yeah.
Although I think a lot of people are kind of not realizing that this isn't an abortion ban. It's a ban after a certain time period. Okay, I think in Alabama it's 8 weeks or 6 weeks. I think in Missouri it's either 6 or 8 weeks.
6
Yeah,
weeks, I think, in both those two states.
which by the way, a lot of people don't even know they're pregnant at that point.
I didn't know I was pregnant with Logan until I was well over 6 weeks.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And with Marley, I knew like almost immediately, like within 2 weeks, because my period didn't come and I was like, wait a minute.
But
But
they're
yeah,
also not running on facts, right?
no.
With it.
That's the thing. There's no real education. People just think, oh, a baby, and something's gonna happen and we gotta protect the babies. But
Well, they
there's
care about the goddamn fucking conception of this baby from when the people first had sex, but they don't care that this baby does not have health care.
no.
They don't care that this baby doesn't have, or the family doesn't have enough money to be able to save it.
Yes.
Right? They care about the
If
goddamn
this baby's
nucleus.
born with all kinds of medical issues, because let's face it, this is what they're trying to force on people. Now, you get an ultrasound or you get an amniocentesis and they find out your baby's got a horrible genetic problem and it's going to be born, with no brain or something, right? And now you have the choice to make. And a lot of people make two different choices. You choose to have the baby and let life go as it goes. And I give a lot of support and respect to those people because, they really are suffering a horrible, to watch that baby die before your eyes. Do you know what I mean? But then you also have the choice then to have your abortion. And I'm not, they don't make it lightly. They're not like, oh, it's Tuesday, I'm gonna have an abortion, and then I'm gonna go to Starbucks and get my
Yeah.
caramel frappuccino. You know what I mean? Like, nobody, even the biggest hoe bag that's just out there fucking around, does not make that decision lightly. I don't care what you're saying about, but now you've saddled this people that decided to have their baby or were forced to have their baby because they couldn't, get an abortion. They didn't have access to an abortion. Now they're going to have potentially millions of dollars in medical expenses to keep this baby on life support and put feeding tubes in it and have round the clock care. But do you think that their insurance is going to cover them from, oh, that baby had a pre-existing condition?
Yeah. We care about you if you don't have pre-existing conditions. We care about you if you are Caucasian. We care about you if you're
and good luck. Well, now all these DNA tests and stuff, you think that when if you do a 23andMe where in Canada, you can't do this. You don't get that genetic testing like that to tell you what pre-existing diseases you're possibly going to get, genetic tests. But I know in America, you can get those. And can you imagine when your insurance company accesses that and says, oh, wait a minute, you're supposed to be getting Parkinson's by the time you're 45? We're not covering you.
These are the conversations that we need. I never really discuss my personal opinion about abortion. It's not because I'm undecided. It's because I can't have one.
Yeah.
And I will never have one. And I will never be faced with the decision of having a physical abortion. I am not equipped to have a child or conceive a child personally, right? That's not a travesty. It's just not something that's within me.
Right.
And so my opinion, as much as it matters, it also doesn't, because I don't get to make that decision for myself. I've always been a believer that we should allow those who are affected to make decisions for us in regards to those situations.
I do. In some ways, I do agree. Right? I agree. Like, what do you have to say about it? You'll never be forced with that decision. But I think we need more men or women who maybe never plan on having a child or never plan on getting pregnant. We need more of these people to step forward and say, shut up, stay out of it, and force these government lawmakers to stop making these laws.
That's the thing, Jacqueline, is that we are already on that path. We are at an all-time low with childbirths in the United States of America. I won't touch base on Canada. I won't touch base on the UK because we all know they're dropping as well. Yeah, but in the United States of America, it's bad. But you know where it's really, really bad is Japan.
Yeah.
That I think they're saying that by 2040 or 2050, they're going to have a really serious problem.
Yeah.
If they don't.
Japan is a country that doesn't want to bring any immigrants in. You know what I mean?
But hindsight looks great because it's after the fact. It's never during. It's never before. It's after the fact. So laws do have to be changed. Now, I'm not saying I agree with it because I don't want this to be misinterpreted and people are saying, oh, you agree with the abortion ban. No. This is about laws have to be changed because the weather changes. Now, I'm not talking physically, but figuratively. The environment that we are in, the place that we are in currently, will not be the same problems that our ancestors will have, right? Or our successors, rather, shall I say, not our predecessors, will have. My predecessors didn't have the same problem like we did when it came to technology. They didn't have that much technology to worry about. And so we still have these laws that don't protect us from technology.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We have laws that don't protect us from big pharma.
Yeah.
We have laws that don't protect us from banking because it was never, we never had the capacity at the time to handle it.
Things were simple. Like, honestly, you went to the bank, you had your loans, you had your mortgages, it wasn't like it is now.
Well, but look at how China tried to fix their problem with population.
Yeah.
That was a fix, and it worked for a little while. Let's be frank. Let's look at the status.
Yeah, their population slowed down dramatically.
However, they're still having problems, and you know what the problem is?
They don't have any females, so not enough females.
And people don't talk about that aspect of it. People
Yeah.
people focus so much on it will control our population, but what if you get more of the other? Because remember, you have to.
And I mean, we know this is currently happening in India, and it's not because there's a
Yeah.
population ban, it's because it's expensive to have girls. To have a girl, you have
Yes.
to pay somebody to take your daughter,
Dowry. Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know,
The
and
dowries.
because of that practice and that custom, people don't want to have girls, they want to have boys. And so when women find out they're having boys or families find out they're having girls, they get abortions. Here's the thing in America, and this is what's really disgusting to me, is that we're not basing any of these laws on science.
Mm-hmm.
These abortion restrictions and stuff like that. It's not based on science. It's based on a book. I know a lot of people believe in this book. Um, but nowhere in that book does it say don't have abortions. And the same people that want to restrict abortion rights, people that have access to abortions, people that are sick, people that have been raped, little girls, forcing a
Yeah.
12-year-old to have a child
Yeah.
is that's child abuse in my opinion. We're not giving them access to healthcare. We're not giving them access to safe preventative things,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
birth control, education. We're cutting
Well,
out
but they
sex
would have took that
education.
away
We're
too.
cutting out sex education. And then we're surprised when a 12-year-old girl turns out pregnant.
Oh, because they thought that if the guy fucked her in the butt, she can get pregnant.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, there's still a
The guy
possible
pulls
chance.
out and, Jesus on her leg. Jesus. Or you
But these are
put some
conversations.
Coca-Cola up there as a douche to kill the sperm. That's what people think these things.
These are the conversations that we were having. Well, not me, because I'm not of that era, or that bygone era, as I call
Yeah.
it. But these are the conversations I had heard my nannies and my maids talking about when they were young, like when I was really, really young. That was not almost, that's 2 decades ago.
Yeah.
And that's really scary.
I mean, you think back to Roe versus Wade happened in what, 1971?
Yes. 71, yes. Mm-hmm.
And now we're in almost 2020. And we're still having this problem. We're still taking away these rights. What the hell is wrong with
everybody's?
Where's progress? We're supposed to be in the golden age of progress. Like, I mean, honestly, Ryan, when I was in the 80s and I was a teenager, I must have been a stupid, naive kid because I thought there'd be no more racism. I thought I saw all my friends dating black guys and black girls dating white guys. And I thought, oh, everybody's just going to date and they're going to have all these mixed kids and it's going to be fine. And nobody's going to be racist because we'll have seen it and we'll accept it. I didn't really know any gay people back then because nobody came out. I'm sure I knew gay people, but nobody was out. When I started to meet gay people in the 90s, I thought, oh, this is wonderful. And we're passing these laws and there's gay pride and we're getting married, and everything's going to be wonderful. And I didn't think there'd be any more homophobia. I was like so naive. And I'm in 2020 and we're rolling back abortion rights. Like, it's crazy.
Growing up, I used to have to worry about being abducted by some crazy individual or by some group or gang.
Yeah.
When I finally first came to the United States of America, I was 11 and a half years old, right?
Yeah.
I never thought that at my real adult life, and this is really powerful for me to say, because I haven't really said this in public like this, I never thought that I'd have to worry about walking from my house to the bus stop, that some crazy individual might just start shooting me.
Yeah.
I didn't know that if I wore a hoodie, I'd have to fear that the cops may think
that you're a gangbanger.
And that they would shoot me.
Yeah.
I didn't think that
having
I got my license,
having saggy pants would get you shot by the cops.
Or that if I got my license and started driving and I got pulled over, that I could be shot.
Yeah.
Or that this is really funny. That by living my best life, someone can just easily take that away from me because they don't think and or believe that I am entitled to that.
Yeah.
So
for whatever the reason, whether it's, the color of your skin, your sexuality, your political belief.
Which is, by the way, three strikes, you're out at this point.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't know how many strikes I've got at this point. Because it's too many to count. But this is not the future that I thought of.
No.
And I wasn't some sort of delusional child growing up thinking everything was going to be roses and daisies and ping pong tables growing up. I was very well aware. Like, I remember there was this very famous case in the Philippines of rape. I was well aware of the evils that existed in the world.
Yeah.
But to the extent that we're living in right now, what we hear in your place of worship, you're getting shot, having a party outside of, in Las Vegas gets you shot. What doesn't get you shot anymore? What
You can't even
protection?
be sitting in your house and not get shot, because remember we had that swatting where the guy was innocently sitting in
Yeah.
the house and he got swatted and the cop shot him. So you can't even like be like, oh, I'll just never leave my house, because that's not working out for you either.
But that's scary.
Yeah.
That's a scary world. Why would I? Because people probably thinking, oh, you're talking about this. What does this have anything to do with abortion? Why would I, with my partner, if I have one or had one, want to bring a child into this world?
Yeah.
What kind of cruel individual would I be if I were to bring a child into this world with all of the chaos and the inhumanity that's going on? Would I be? Right? And so to take away that decision from someone like me, take away that decision from women, take away that decision from families, I think is the inhumane part. Because sometimes accidents do happen.
What does it matter? Like, honestly, like, look, I've never had an abortion. I won't ever have one now. I've been neutered. I would never judge. I would never judge anybody. And I would never take that choice away from somebody, because I know that when somebody has made that decision in their life, that they have agonized over it. Like I said, they're not like, oh, I want to go out on Saturday night and I want to have 45 Cosmos, so I better get that abortion. Like, nobody's thinking that way, you
I
know?
don't.
And if you think that these people are going to suffer an eternal damnation, good. Then that's what you can believe, because I don't believe that. And I don't believe that, life starts at conception. I don't believe that a 6-week-old fetus is a baby. I don't think a 2-month-old fetus is a baby. I'm sorry. And if that offends you, too bad, because what you're doing is going to kill a lot of women, because they're going to get illegal abortions and they're going to get injured and they're going to die. And in
But
any country where a rapist gets less time in jail for raping somebody than a doctor for performing an abortion, that's wrong. And if your rapist then has the freaking right to see the baby he created inside of you and you have to see him, that's a fucked up country.
That's a fucked up world. That's
Yeah.
a fucked up world.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to tell someone's story because it's not my story to tell. Jacqueline, you're aware of why I exist, right? So I don't want to tell someone's story, but sometimes it's the very existence of you why it mattered at the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I because it would out someone, and I know that person doesn't speak of theirs, at least publicly, like this.
Yeah.
I do think they're a hypocrite, but it's not my story to tell, so I won't. But just as an example, in my family, there was, who I'm very close with, there was a child that was born who passed away, unfortunately, months.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget what that cousin of mine confided to me. If I knew half as much as I know now, I wouldn't have brought that child into this world, because it never brought me back to where I was before that happened.
Yeah.
To have to hold my dead child, infant, in my hand, you can never take that away from me, because there were tests done before saying you're, and this was in the 90s, right? You may not have a child that would be healthy.
Yeah.
People don't take abortion lightly. I don't think anybody does. And if they do, shame on you, right? But almost no one does. It comes with a heavy heart. It is a burden that you forever pay for with your mind, with your soul, with your, and if you are religious, with your spirituality. You will forever pay for that part. But so is cheating.
Yeah.
So is
murdering.
murdering. So is.
Can I say this is the other thing. A woman can get pregnant once a month. Okay. If everything's working properly, she can get pregnant once a month or every 28 days, right? So 13 times a year, I think we get our periods. A guy can literally have a baby
until 7.
20 times a day. As many times he
Mhm.
can get it up and ejaculate, he can make a baby. You know, he's releasing millions of sperm every time he ejaculates. Where's the laws on that? Where's the caps on that?
Well,
Do you know
look
what
at
I mean? If you're
the
trying to control what's happening to my body, I want to make sure that every time a guy jizzes and it's not in a woman's vagina, he's committing murder.
but think about this. For every time we held our hands up and applauded people like Hugh Hefner
Yeah.
and shamed people like Karen McDougal and Stormy Daniels,
Yep.
you're part of the issue.
Yep.
You are part of the issue, and you have to admit that. For every single time we thought Harvey Weinstein's a stud because these girls did sleep with him, you're part of the issue. You're part of the problem.
Yep. Or all these lady teachers
Mm-hmm.
that sleep with their male students. Oh, that guy's a hero. No,
Mm-hmm.
he's an abuse victim.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know?
Because we have to also change the way that we think and the way that we talk about abuse and the way that we talk about these situations, the shame that is carried for the woman and the man.
Yeah.
That's part of the problem.
Yeah.
That's part of the problem. It's the way that we still view the sexes differently.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Feminism and equality is not about literally categorizing everybody.
Yeah.
I do believe in categories. I believe that your birth certificate should say either male or female. Now, whether you agree with that when you're an adult or not really my issue at that point, because I'm pretty secure that I'm a gay man.
Yeah.
Because I do believe in those categories, but a man just being a firefighter and a woman not being able to be, that I have a problem with.
Look, I have a son. He's 19 years old and he cries all the time. He's super sensitive. He's super emotional. I have another friend. I won't name him, but you know who he is, Ryan. He's also a crier and he cries at work when he gets upset or he gets, stressed, frustrated. Some people are sensitive and people would say, oh, what a sissy, or, oh, what are you, gay? You know, these horrible terms. And it's like, no, there's different types of men. There's different types of women. Some women never cry and other women like me cry because I saw a sad commercial on TV. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just, we are. We shouldn't be forcing people into these toxic stereotypes.
I mean, in the gay world, I'm an oxymoron. I'm walking around in $600 shoes, looking all fabulous and caboodle, yet I want to go in my $600 shoes to the shooting range and shoot guns.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yes, we are not just in a box, and this isn't some liberal thinking. This isn't some hippie way of life. This is the truth. Not everybody is put in a box. You can be a Christian and be pro-choice. You can be an atheist and be pro-life.
Absolutely.
It depends on you, and it's those choices that make all of us pro-choice.
And that's what it should all come down to, in my opinion. Like, no one's going to force you to have an abortion if you don't want one. This is the thing.
Yes.
If you don't believe in abortion, fantastic. Don't have one. Stay out of my bedroom. Stay out of my doctor's office. Stay out of my vagina.
Which, by the way, in this whole conversation that we've just had about the abortion bans being passed in Missouri, because we know what they're trying to do, right? We know what they're trying to do. They're trying to put this into the courts. With all these abortion bans going along in the conversation that we're having right now, which is pretty heavy and somewhat emotional for us, we have yet to state what our personal opinions are. I don't. I never really state if I'm pro-choice or pro-life. Maybe I'll somewhat allude to it, but what you're thinking isn't necessarily what you really believe.
I'll say it. I'm 100% pro-choice. People should have the choice. You know, the same as like for some reason we have laws that say that I don't have to get.
See, I'll do the same thing that you just did, but then I also want you to answer the question I'm going to ask after I say mine.
Go ahead.
I'm pretty pro-life because I don't believe in the death sentence. I don't believe in abortions necessarily, but I do believe that those choices should be left to women and what their circumstances are. Now, I'm going to ask you this question. You can't ask me this because I'm not a woman. Would you have an abortion?
You know, I remember when I was a teenager. Now, I wasn't sexually active, but I thought if I got pregnant, I would have an abortion because I wasn't
See?
ready.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready. And honest to God, if some miracle came along and I was pregnant tomorrow, I would definitely think about, I don't know what I would do.
Yeah.
I would have an
Mhm.
abortion if the situation, and I'm not even talking about a medical situation.
Mhm.
I'm just talking about the situation in my life. If I wasn't at a place in my life where I thought I could have a baby and raise it as best as I could.
Kiss you if you brush your
Oh. And then you hear that little voice and you think, who could, ever be pro-choice?
Well, but
But,
here,
I would. I
which
would
just
have an
walks in,
abortion if I needed.
which by the way just walks in at the wrong time, as I'm about to say what I was
Yeah,
going to say, which is this. And I just said that I'm pretty pro-life, right? But
yeah,
believe it or not, if I was a little girl,
yeah.
hence on if I was, because I'm not a little girl as much as I pretend to be. If I was a little girl and if I would have gotten pregnant at 16, as much as I am pro-life and I've always held this
Yeah,
stance, I would have probably had an abortion
yeah,
because
yeah. I
I wouldn't have wanted to be a mom at that age. No.
to a boyfriend who's,
Mhm.
I didn't want to have an abortion
Mhm.
because, that's why I didn't have sex until I was literally nearly an adult.
Yeah.
Um, because I didn't want to have to make that choice.
So it's shocking because until you're in the situation that you're in, you wouldn't really know what you're fully capable of. I think I've spoken
I'm
about this
sure I
even.
would have went through, like, honestly, if I was 17 or 18 and I'd gotten pregnant, or even if I was 21, 22 and I was with Scott and I'd gotten pregnant, I probably would have had an abortion at the time. And I think I would have went through with it and I would have been fine with it today.
I'll be
Honestly.
honest with you. If I were
Yeah.
a woman and I was pregnant right now, I'm being quite frank about this. This is probably a little shocking and somewhat of an oxymoron because I am a walking, talking oxymoron. I probably would have an abortion. Honest to God, I don't want children.
Yeah.
I don't. I don't
And that's
personally
the thing
want
with a
children.
lot of women who just literally, it doesn't matter whether they're wealthy or poor,
But
or they have a genetic issue, they just
yeah,
don't want children. And that's okay. We need to stop shaming those people as
people.
well.
Well, but also, uh, I want to just quickly say this. Um, Pro-life doesn't always just mean abortion. Sometimes it
Yeah.
could be about I'm pro-life for everything. I don't believe in the death penalty. I think that
No, my stance on that, I
it,
don't believe in it
yeah,
either.
if you value life so much that you don't want a woman to have an abortion, but you're willing to kill an individual who committed what you believe to be a heinous crime, then you're not pro-life. You
No.
are pro-choice because again, that's a choice,
Yeah.
right? You having sex at this very moment where you can potentially get pregnant because you're probably not going to use a condom, that's a choice. So that makes you pro-choice.
Yeah.
That's why I do ultimately believe everybody really is pro-choice. Having an abortion is a choice.
Yeah.
Giving birth is a choice. These are the beauties of life that
Unless
have
you
been
take
handed to
that
us.
option away from people, then it's no longer
Mhm.
a choice.
That's no longer a choice.
Forced surrogacy on somebody.
And that's why I want to protect those people because yes, my personal beliefs are what they are, but I view the law in a different way. I believe that people should be able to make their decisions for themselves. Now, there's limits to that. I don't want every goddamn fucking person who wants a polygamous relationship to be able to marry 15 people. Because
Exactly.
personally, it takes away from me. But
Yeah.
you know what I'm
No,
saying?
that's the thing,
It's
like,
that.
there are so many different lifestyles out there. You talk about polygamy or polyamory, right?
Mhm.
Who are we to sit in judgment of somebody's lifestyle as long as everybody's willing and legal and happy? Who are we
Mhm.
to sit in judgment of them? By the way, Sister Patty's in the chat and she says she would also have an abortion if she needed to have one. So, or if
Well,
she, not if she needed to, but she would have an abortion if that's what she decided she needed at the
but
time.
if you are in that situation,
Yeah.
just like which brings me to, by the way, if anybody has access to Netflix or if you have a Netflix account, one documentary I really want brings me to a point about choices and situations that sometimes you don't think you'll ever make that decision until you're in that situation. Watch a documentary called Weed the People. It's a
Okay.
beautiful documentary because it really shows you the power of cannabis,
Hmm.
right? And what it has always been until about 70 years ago when
Yeah.
we categorize as a substance one
Reefer
drug.
madness.
Yeah. That which was Nixon's presidency. But
Yeah.
no, that was Nixon's presidency who signed it until that it was substance, right? Because
Substance
before that,
category 1 or whatever they
Category
called it.
1, yeah. Which puts it in the same level as cocaine, by the way.
And heroin.
Heroin, which
Jesus.
has been shown that it can be helpful and that it can help people with anxiety. In that documentary, to be a little bit fair, though, it focuses heavily on cancer. And that's fair, right? Like, to me, it's a little bit unfair because
A
we're
lot of
talking
people are looking into cancer therapy and curing with cannabis, and because we've never done real studies because it was a class 1 drug and it was illegal, there haven't been any real studies. That's why we need to start giving money to universities to start doing these tests, right? So I know there's the famous story of the girl in Colorado with the epilepsy.
Yes,
and they gave her the oil. It's there's none of the THC in it, so she doesn't get high off of it.
Basically like CBD.
Yeah, so she doesn't get high off of it. She's not getting hallucinations, any of that stuff. But she went from not talking, not really living a life, and having like multiple seizures a day to dancing and singing and going to school and writing and being, a normal little girl.
Because I know someone personally in my life. I'm not even going to take it as far as epilepsy, Jacqueline, right? Because that's really one other part of the spectrum here. I'm going to talk about I don't want to say as simple. I'm not making fun of people with mental illnesses or anxiety. But you think about it with people with anxiety. I know someone who has debilitating anxiety, who just cannot seem to function outside. They're a professional. They work as, I think I can say, most people probably would know this person. Some of my friends listen. He has anxiety. He's a pharmacist, right? Okay. And he started taking, again, non-THC, CBD, the gummies.
Yeah.
Right? It won't even show up on a drug test because THC was taken away from this. And even if you smoke a CBD joint, by the way, you're probably going to get somewhere along the lines of 0.3. Yeah. I repeat, 0.3 THC. That won't show up on a drug test, by the way. Just saying to people. And it helps. Like, I mean, when I saw him not too long ago, I said, wow, like, we're in a restaurant and you are not anxious. It's like, it's because of the CBD.
Yeah.
That made me proud because I suffer from anxiety. I mean, I talk about mine very openly. I suffer from anxiety and I have been on everything you can imagine. I don't want to feel robotic. I don't want to feel like I'm having to take a pill every single day. Yeah. In regards to this thing in my life. So I'm not on anything, but there are days that my anxiety has anxiety, which has anxiety.
Yeah.
And you're just a big ball of nerves.
We're seeing it more around. Look, I've laughed. You've heard me say that I feel like everybody now, all these millennials all have anxiety and they don't want to leave their houses. But I mean, look, we know that there's genuine people that have these issues, that have real anxiety. And if you can take something that's not going to affect you in the sense that you can do your job,
and you can function,
take care of your kid. Maybe you have kids, right? You don't want to sit there and smoke a joint and be like stoned off your head. You want to be able to cook dinner for them and not burn down the house. And you know what I mean? Why shouldn't we allow people to have access to a therapy?
But why shouldn't we? Even if, let's say, in our lifetime, it's never going to happen that it's legalized, which actually it might.
It just happened. The right government coming in. Look, it came. Yeah. Nobody thought it was ever going to happen in Canada, and here we are.
It happened. But even if we just, at the very least, to criminalize marijuana, take it off the list as a substance 1 drug, and actually allow it to be used in research.
Yes.
For the government to use and even test this on.
Even if you don't want to, make it legal for, personal use, what's the word? Recreational consumption. Whatever, that's fine. I get it. It's still a scary drug. But you know what I mean? Open it to every state for medical use.
Research, or any medical. Yes. I'm very conservative when it comes to my beliefs in drugs. I've always been. I don't think this is something that will ever change within me, and especially when I become a grumpy old man, it will probably get even worse. I'm naturally
El Torino.
El Torino, there we go. No, Gran Torino.
Gran Torino, there we go. We finally found it.
I'm naturally very conservative. Jacqueline knows this about me because she knows me personally. I'm pretty conservative when it comes to a lot of things.
He really
liberal socially, but very conservative.
Yeah.
I don't think that we should be allowing people to just use mushrooms. I don't agree that people should just be I don't want to say recreationally, but allowed to be 500 feet away from a school smoking a joint. I don't
Yeah.
agree with that, but I do agree that if we can monetize on this, that we should legalize it. And
Yeah.
especially if there are researches that could be done to potentially help, because we know it helps with AIDS wasting, which is a real problem, by the way, a real medical problem. We know
Yes.
that it could potentially help with cancer patients
We
who
know that
are in
cancer
the last
patients using
stages.
it for, well, not even just that. People going through chemotherapy that don't have an
Yes.
appetite use that, and they're able to eat some food and they don't become skeletal. Like, there's a lot of uses for it.
It's not just for
Sister Patty
recreation.
says, "Yay, mushrooms!" By the way.
Yeah. Well, and again, I also have friends who heavily believe. I won't mention names, and I'm quick to blurt out a name. Um, I have friends who are heavy on those. I'm very genuinely a conservative gay man.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, I was not necessarily right away on board when it came to gay marriage. I never really kind of wanted it to be called gay marriage. Only recently did I believe that it should be
Just be
marriage
called
because,
marriage.
yeah. But now it's for me, and we the people did not convince me of this. This is something I grew on, and I think most of us, most Americans, most Canadians, most people in general, grow on their beliefs because things change. Your mindset changes. It's why laws constantly get questioned because we
Yeah.
aren't. If we start to live our lives the way the Chinese do, the way the Russians do, the way people in Brunei do, the way people in the UAE do,
Mhm.
we will never get to say we are land of the free, home of the brave, welcome people in, and be
Streets
culturally this melting pot.
gold. Yeah.
We will always just be a pseudo belief of what that was and actually be somewhat of a, I'm not saying we're communist, but somewhat of but a country that has communistic views, that we should all function the same,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Laws are meant to be questioned because it's what protects us. Because
Yeah.
what did not apply,
Yeah.
sorry.
Laws need to evolve and change as societies evolve and
Mhm.
change. Like you mentioned earlier today, you talk about how we don't have technology laws because there wasn't any,
Yes.
our calculators weren't going to hurt us back then. Do you know what I mean? So now things have changed. Laws have to change as
When
society.
your goddamn fucking scientific calculator, which by the way, I didn't grow up with these calculators, but your goddamn scientific calculator can potentially be hacked,
Yeah.
I'm a little afraid when
Yeah.
my tiny little iPhone 10s Max can be hacked and y'all can see my little nudies. I'm
Yeah.
afraid.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like nothing is ever safe. The safety
I'm
precautions that
afraid
we,
for the world that would see these nudies. Oh my God. I do not want to see.
girl, you don't want to see this beach whale, okay? This is not the time of the day for you to see this body, darling.
You're like, I didn't know
Uh,
you were part tiger with all those stripes.
yeah. Fuck you, bitch.
Oh, that's me. I've had
Oh,
babies.
oh,
I've
that's
got
me too right now. But it's, I mean, I know we're being funny about it, but it's true. It's like
yeah.
I really like the safety precautions. I was mentioning to Jacqueline before we went on air that I'm actually functioning right now with 2 laptops. But my work laptop is very hard to get into. You can hack it and get into it, but doesn't mean you're going to be able to connect to the internet. It is
Yeah.
absolutely high tech.
Which it
Because
has to be. It's got
it
people's
has to be. I won't
information.
mention for what company I work in.
It's got a
Some
lot of
people may
people's
know what I do.
personal and
Yeah,
not just
I've got
personal,
very private
all their like,
information,
yeah, their
but
bank information and all that stuff.
banking info. You've got social security
Driver's license,
numbers. I
insurance.
probably shouldn't be saying this on the air, but I am in a job where you have to be licensed because you are dealing with this. You have people's medical records sometimes as
Yeah.
well, and so it is a little scary, like the kind of world that we live in now. I thought it was so funny when I was a little boy, imagining, oh my god, like one day there'll be a tablet, which is now called a tablet, this gadget that will you'll be able to just touch things on and be able to order, whatever from the
My God,
internet.
100%. I used to watch Star Trek Next Generation.
Right?
And they
Yeah.
had the tablets. They literally called them tablets, and they would be like reading their files, and they'd watch movies. And I'm like, that'd be amazing if they could do something like that. Here we
Bitch, we
are.
have those. They're
I
$50, by the way, at fucking Target, by the way. I'm just saying, people, it's now $50 to buy these items. when I was growing up, it probably would have cost a million gajillion quadrillion dollars.
Yeah.
It's 50 bucks.
Look, Ryan, I'm so old. I remember when Walkmans came out, and I mean like Walkmans with the tape cassette and the fuzzy headphones. And I was like, that would be amazing to own. And I remember my mom had one, and I was in grade 9. I like took it and used it for school.
Remember like, what you and I were talking
but I had it.
You know, as much as Jacqueline and I have an age difference, Jacqueline and I constantly talk about this. I used to record myself on the cassette.
Oh yeah,
you know, the cassette tapes. Like I would sing with a little microphone.
Off the TV. We would watch Grease 2 and Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, and we would record the songs. But we were so disciplined. We would sing along with the song. So then when we would try to listen back, it would be our horrible voices singing along.
But I'll never forget when my sister got this. It was silver. It was so pretty. This silver player that had a CD compartment to it. Ooh. And my black little radio didn't have one. I was so angry that we're talking, I was a little kid. I mean, it's a couple of days. It's about 2 decades ago. But I mean, some millennials, not all, some millennials remember these struggles that we now have. You know what I mean? Like, I will never trust an 18-year-old talking to me about their struggles about technology, but I'll trust a 27-year-old.
My parents would not let me have an iPhone until I was in grade 4.
Bitch, shut really lightly and just kind of funny story. The other day, I was at work. Boom, boom, boom. I'm typing. Someone calls me. Their birth year was 1992. Okay, 1992. I'm there. I'm thinking, oh my God, you're so young. You're like 17. They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, how did you graduate from college? You're 17. And they kept saying, what are you talking about? This is a personal friend. I'm like, you're 17. How are you out of college?
Ryan, you're so out of it.
This blew my mind. He's like, bitch, I'm 27.
That's how long I've been with Scott, since 1992.
But that's the part that killed me, Jacqueline.
Yeah.
I kept thinking this person who's only 2 years younger than I am. Oh God, I really outed myself. 2 years younger than I am. I thought was 17 because I'm so out of whack in my head that years get mixed up. People who were born in 2002, just to put this out there to make people feel really old, are 17.
Yeah.
They're now having sex. They're having sex. They're getting blowjobs. Okay, so like, just put that into perspective.
True. And they probably were doing it a lot younger than 17.
But that's see. I'm not even focused on that. I'm just saying the fact that they are now 17 years old, which means by next year they'll be 18. And guess what they're able to do?
Vote.
So
that's my daughter's so excited to vote now because she's really finally taking. I mean, she's always kind of been interested in politics, but because of our new Ontario government we got last year, Doug Ford, and you want to talk about?
Thank you, Mayor Ford.
Yeah, well, he died and his brother got the power now. And but a lot of people really think that he's doing a real injustice and misjustice to the school system, and the kids are out there protesting, and she's excited to vote, and she wants to vote him out. Now she's got a few years to wait because he just got into power, but I mean, you know, next year she gets to vote, and I'm glad that she's engaged and reading up talking about it.
This is my quick message to 45. This is my quick message to 45. This is my quick message to Duterte and potential leaders who will follow suit, right? Because I know we're over time.
Yeah.
Surges happen. That's very true. But is it sustainable? And can you keep up with the momentum that you had a couple of years ago to what is now? People change, mentalities change, climates change.
These conservative people, remember, a lot of your voters and supporters are dying off.
And not just that, the 2002s.
Yeah,
the
that's
2001s.
Young people
are now
all these Parkland students. They're voting.
They're able to vote.
You know.
They're able to vote. And so you can
come back, and the young people, this is what always gets me, is people are like, oh, these young people, they're just doing what their teachers tell them to do. No, young people have always changed the world. Young
Yes.
people were the American founding fathers. Young people were the people involved with Martin Luther King during the civil rights. Young
The
people were the
suffrage.
people
Mhm,
fighting the suffragettes. Young people fighting
mhm,
against the Vietnam War. Young
mhm.
people changed the world. Old people sit on their house and their butts and complain
Ah,
about the cost of
in
fucking
and so you can sit there in your little bubble, and this is a message to the GOP. This is a message even to the Democrats. Sit
yes.
there and belittle the millennials. The generation that people call the complainers and the whiners.
Yeah.
But they're the
Yeah.
ones taking to the streets, and they'll be the ones voting next year.
Well, this is a reason why Bernie did get so far because they didn't
Mhm,
see Democrat or conservatives as their option.
mhm,
They wanted somebody like Bernie because he was more of a socialist and somebody different than the two parties.
mhm,
So,
mhm.
people got to figure out and get those youth behind them as well.
It's the youth that's gonna. It's the youth. If Obama did it. If Obama did it and shook this country,
Yeah.
if you don't think it will happen again, if you don't think people are literally just because you're just like in 2016, we didn't know that people were that angry that they voted red. If
Yeah.
you don't think that in 2020, if you think the polls are still skewed, you're living in a different world. Because
Yeah.
what's going to happen is that those silent little 17-year-olds that are able to
Yeah.
vote next year, they're the ones who are going to shake you up.
Exactly. And we already saw
And
it
pay
last
attention
year
to that.
how many young people turned
Mhm,
out. It was a historic amount of young people turning
mhm,
out to vote.
mhm. That was my generation, by the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Because that was the year that I had turned 18. 2008 was the year I had turned 18. I would have been able to vote. But we will not talk about my personal life.
Okay, so
But
listen, I haven't had my dinner. I gotta eat, Ryan. I'm starving.
okay. Well, okay. Thank you. We are back. Hopefully, we'll be in on Monday, Jacqueline.
Yeah, I'll be
Yeah.
here Monday as far as I know. So thanks for
If
listening,
I
and
haven't died, I'll be here. Okay.
you're not gonna die.
You never know. There's a thunderstorm.
Tornadoes. Stay safe, people. Thanks for listening. Have a good week. Bye bye.